It is my distinct pleasure to introduce the moderator for our next session, Understanding Immigrants in New Hampshire. Christine Tappan is the Chief of Community-Based Services and Advancement at Ascentria Carolines, a 150-year-old nonprofit providing health and human services across New Hampshire and New England. She's a highly experienced, transformative, and adaptive leader with progressive practice, program, policy, strategy, and financial expertise across the health and human services spectrum, with deep expertise in services that promote well-being of individuals, children, families, and communities. Christine has worked at the local, state, national, and international levels, overseeing programs and services, designing policy, providing training and technical assistance, teaching, and conducting research. Please thank you. Welcome, Christine Tappan.
All right, well, it's always hard to, or maybe it's easy, to quell the buzz and begin to move into the next session. I have to say, it is really wonderful to hear hope is quickly moving to action. And I think with our next panel, we're going to see we're going to take a deeper look into the lens of the immigrant experience. And my sense is we're going to hear more ideas come forward. So we're continuing on this journey, and to develop a deeper understanding, we've brought three panelists here today for this session. Our three panelists have varying roles within the immigrant and resettlement experience. Henry Harris is from the International Institute of New England, and he's going to share with us a bit about his experiences in terms of leading and implementing the services along the resettlement experience continuum. We also have Clement Kigugu, who's from Overcomers Refugee Services. And again, he's going to share some information, data, facts on the experiences of what it really looks like in the day-to-day life of someone who is resettling and really trying to move into their life here in New Hampshire. And then we have Dr. Sanjay Sagar from Darthmouth Health, who's actually going to share a bit about his experiences along his entire immigrant journey. As we've talked about before, these journeys often take people through many systems, many countries, many communities. I think what you're going to hear from our panelists today, kind of echoing what we heard on our first panel, is relationship, relationship, relationship. When people belong, when they feel a part of a network, they are able to activate and they're able to be encouraged and to step through any barriers, to step around any barriers, and to create new bridges. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the microphone off to Henry Harris.
The American dream for so many, it's not this grandiose thing. Sometimes it's becoming an LNA, just providing for your family, finding a better way to do that. The International Institute of New England is a 100-plus year organization, we're a nonprofit dedicated to refugee resettlement. And our mission is to provide opportunities through resettlement, education, and pathways to citizenship. And I use this picture. This is one of our first Afghan refugee families to arrive a couple years ago when the evacuation of Afghanistan happened. Because no matter where you come from, no matter what you believe, what your religion is, what your background is, everyone just wants to provide a better life for their family, a safe place for kids. And that's really a unifying thing for all of us. You know, we just want to belong to a community, and so I sell that with a cute kid. So today, we've resettled the International Institute has resettled over 10,000 people, and continuing today, we have an arrival coming today. So we have over 70 different nations and cultures and people like from all over the world. So it's really, when you think about it, it's a global thing. They asked me what refugee resettlement is like, and it's really like herding cats. Our funding for refugees does not cover enough. So by the time you get someone here, the first 90 days is critical. You have to orientate people to the community, you have to provide get them hooked up with services. It's very case management intensive. And you're fighting 1%, less than 1% housing availability in our state. So we as an organization have over 190 grants, public and private, to help fill in those gaps, help provide services. And that's where it's like herding cats, because every program has all these different requirements and eligibilities that mean nothing to our clients. They just want to get settled, and we're like trying to do that through, government programs. So it's very case management intensive. And oddly, a lot of people think that the U.S. is like everyone comes to the U.S. and they don't think about other countries. We are not the #1 refugee resettlement country. It varies. Last administration, we were like ranked 30. Right now we're about 14 in the nation. And so what happens is like the government, through the president and Congress, they decide a number that the U.S. is going to take. So for this year, FY24, there's 125,000 people that are sort of expected to come. They never hit that number usually. It's always a little bit less. And then agencies like ours have a contract to take on some of that. So for us, we have 185 individuals who are expected to come this year. Now, a large family will take the weight of that number. So depending on family size of 13 is different than one. So we usually fall way below this number. A safe number would probably be maybe 150. That we would resettle this year. So our fiscal year starts in October and goes to September. So this year already, we are about 14% of our caseload. 15 because we have an arrival today. So just kind of explaining some of how that works. So again, here's a family arriving, and then here's a list of some of the things that we do in the first 90 days. So we get families a house, which is really challenging, and then we provide services. We get the kids enrolled in schools. We do cultural orientations, which is important because sometimes for new arrivals, operating an apartment may be different from where they came from. So learning how to use a gas stove, for example, or navigating those types of things. So we start off providing that. And most of our clients come, there's kind of two main pathways, right? You're either coming to America because you have opportunity, or you're coming because there's some horrific things happening in the world right now. And I don't mean to make light of that, but I didn't know how else to explain it. So you're either running from or running to, oftentimes it's the same thing. But for our clients, any kind of change equals loss, right? Like if you won the lottery today, you'd think, all right, like my life is on track, everything's solved. But your life as you knew it has changed. So like, no matter why you came to this country, you are still giving up something. You're giving up your culture a little bit, your connection to your community that you left, your family, and all of that equals some trauma and stress. So it's important to realize that it's very overwhelming to come to this country and navigate complicated systems. And so, our clients face huge barriers: language, transportation, childcare, all these things. Oops, all these things add up. Navigating new systems and not having any social clout, right? They usually come, you may have a community that's already here that you identify with, but you're not quite part of that community yet. So it takes time for people to make social connections, and that's really key for survival and for sustainability. And to be successful is for us to help make connections with the community. So again, there's expectations, right? Reality versus, what expectations are. So a lot of people come here thinking, okay, all my problems are going to be solved. It's challenging because you have expectations in what housing is going to look like. Or I had skills back home, but they're not transferable here yet. So those things are tough to navigate. And so there's lots of different ways to get from point A to point B, and I think that's important for us to realize as employers, because you have to meet people where they are, as individuals, where they are right now, and you have to understand that everybody brings something to the table. Just because they're not English speaking yet, doesn't mean they don't have very similar skills or background in their own country, and those things are uniquely, for refugees, it's unique, right? Because they're bringing a skill set that we're not aware of. It actually makes the job better. We hire, as an agency, we hire a lot of our clients, and over time, they contribute so much because their experience helps inform us how to make our programs better. So we do that through resettlement, and then we do provide opportunities for employment and stabilization, and then we try to integrate people back into the community. So the long haul is really to try to, provide opportunities where we are making connections, setting people up with skills training so that they can advance their careers. And so like cultural orientation, it starts like a drop in the water and the rings expand outward. So we start very small. We navigate our apartments. We navigate things. You'd be surprised. There's an example of people getting their Medicaid benefits shut off because they didn't know where their mailbox was. And when they finally figured out it was on the backside of the building, in an alleyway, the thing was full, and they missed all their deadlines. So little things like that, or we have to provide the cultural orientation, and then we expand out how to navigate school systems, how to navigate public transportation, employment. We work very closely with employers to help make that bridge so that people aren't showing up with just a resume and very little English skills. We provide ESL programs from beginner to advanced, and this is really one of our most important programs because it's building community. We have people from all over the world in a room together, shared experience. By the time they graduate, they're hugging each other. These are people who would never probably have an opportunity to be in the same room together. So it's one of our most important programs that we do. And it's also most important for employers here because it sets you up for success. The more English you can learn quickly, it just helps so much for employment. And we also offer programs for kids because kids are often overlooked, but this is a huge step for them. They lost their connections to friends. They don't know how to navigate social interactions in school sometimes. So we have people in the schools working with families to orientate them to schools, to also help with kids and get them, with IEPs, 504s, help them navigate, be an advocate in the schools. And we offer employment. So we have, basic survival employment is just take any job you can get, so you can pay your rent. And then we circle back and we say, okay, what are you interested in? What are your skills? And then we build from there and try to use our career navigators to find a pathway into a more meaningful job. And on the earlier panel, they discussed being able to take a few hours out of the day and go to English classes. We are partnering with Elliott Hospital and CMC, two competing hospitals, partnering with us to provide English training on site during their shifts. And so what happens is people come who are in the entry-level positions in the hospital, they learn better English skills over a course that we were teaching. And then at the end of that, they have opportunities to move into bigger positions in the hospital. It's been very successful, and it really shows that when you look at the feedback from the supervisors, relationships between refugees and immigrants who are going through that program have improved significantly. because they see how hard they're working, they see the positive benefits coming out of that. So as employers, if you can explore that option of providing on-site English, I think you really see the benefits of it. We also have an LNA program that's really checking a lot of boxes in terms of healthcare. Again, we partner with Manchester Community College, we do all the curriculum that prepares you for healthcare, and then they go off to MCC for their clinicals, and then they come back to us to study for the exam. So most of our students we have almost 100% graduation rate, and all of our students usually pass the state exam in 1 or 2 tries. So the takeaways really are refugees are resilient, they have a lot to contribute, they are motivated to work, they bring unique experiences and talents, and I think they check the boxes for so much of our needs. I think what we need to do as a business community is think outside the box. We're used to just putting ads in papers or online and having people come to us with resumes. I think it's worth connecting to Ascentria and International Institute for this building relationship between employers so that we can help create funnels for people to find successful employment. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Clement Kigugu. I'm executive director, founder, and executive director of Overcomers Refugee Services. Overcomers Refugee Services is 501c3 non-profit organization that has office here in Concord, but we help all the refugee in all states, especially Concord, Manchester, and Nashua. Our mission is to empower refugees to become successful, contributing member of New Hampshire society. The reason why I'm saying is that, I will go back and explain a little bit about the refugee, but our mission is really to tell our refugee or people who are New American that we are now part of this community, this society. So we need to contribute no matter what. Whatever we have, we need to contribute, knowing that this is our state. People have been living in refugee camps so many years, and then have been transitioning from one country to another country. But this is the last country where they have to feel like this is our country, we need to contribute. I don't know I think most of you know the refugee and why they came to this country. I remember one time I was at DMV and I met with a guy who approached me and said, "Why are you here? Are you here because of opportunity?" And I say, "Yes," but I realized that he didn't know about the refugee and why the refugee came in this country. Some people think that they just came for opportunity to look for money, but that's not true. Sometimes the media, say the thing that's not really true. But myself, I'm a refugee, and I understand, and I know why I came here. So the reason why people come in this country, it's because, I'm saying the refugee, they are forced to flee from persecution and war. Leave everything behind, and then live in refugee camp for many years and sent to the country where they will accept them. As I said, it's very hard for people to understand if you never experienced this life. I experienced this life myself. I grew up in Congo and I went to Rwanda after genocide. So I went to college and graduated from college. I was eager to start working and get a job and make money and provide for my family, which that's exactly what happened. So I graduated and I started my own organization to help victims of genocide, war, and HIV. After 8 years, I was feeling that I'm now stable, having my children, having job, enjoying to be with my coworker, enjoying my country, the good weather, nice culture-appropriate food. But one day, I found myself that I have to leave the country and come to United States of America. So when I landed to Washington, D.C., I was very shocked. No one could speak French or Kinyarwanda. Everybody was just look at me. I couldn't find anybody to speak to. And then it was really cold weather at that time. So that was my first experience, not having someone who speaks the same language, but also the weather, cold weather. But I survived. So when I went to Washington, D.C., I applied for asylum. I was approved, and then decided to move to Concord, New Hampshire. And for the first winter, when I was driving with my friend, he got involved in an accident, the first snow. So for me, the snow is an accident. So the first time I went to work, the second time when there was snow, so they called me to come to work, and they say, I'm not coming to work, there's a snow. And the guy said, come on, you're not gonna go to work because of snow? Which means you will stay at home all winter. So it was a really good experience. As you see, New Hampshire, it's really getting more refugees. I'm not gonna talk much about this, but I wanted just to show you how much the many cities of New Hampshire doesn't have the refugees. So most of the refugees are only in Manchester, Concord, and some in Nashua. But other cities, you can see there's just zero refugees in the states. Perhaps this year, the Ukrainian and Afghan are everywhere. But other than that, many cities doesn't really have so many refugees in their cities. And you can see the numbers of the refugee. I don't have 23 numbers, but you can see from 2015 to 2022 how many refugees were resettled in this country. So my organization is not a resettlement agency. We are post-resettlement agencies. So we pick up where, I will not say left, but I know the resettlement agency are so busy with the paperwork, with many arrivals. So we kind of really help them to help those who have been here for long to adjust for a new life here in New Hampshire. And the next slide is, you can see the countries of origin. You have Europe, Africa, Asia, East Asia, and Central America. So the big number here are people from Africa, which is 1,288 in those almost 5 years. But we're still having more refugees coming from Africa, Ukraine, and Afghan. So this is Overcomers. As I said, I'm the founder and executive director of Overcomers Refugee Services. So when I came as a refugee, as I said, I couldn't speak English. I was impressed to see my friend John and Ali Saku. They said when they came here, they went to college and have their diploma here. For me, I graduated from Second Star. So I'm very, very proud of it because I came, they are still young, but when I came here, I had 6 children. And everybody was saying, oh, how are you gonna survive in this country with 6 children? And my first job, I was making $7 the minimum wage. And with 6 children, my wife and I, 8 people in family. And that time, refugees are people who really work hard. We are not here just to get the benefit. So I was working one job, going to Second Star every 3 days a week, and also transported kids to go to school every morning, picking them up from school, and then taking them to sports. And then I didn't even have a time to sleep, to be honest. And going back to work, early morning, take the kids to school, going to Second Star, evening, go to work. So I did all those jobs for many years. So my focus was really, I didn't have a time to go back to school, but I focus on my children. Now, I have 3 who already graduated from college. I have 3 who are in college now. So it's just me and my wife home now. All kids are already grown up, they are in college. So the reason why I feel like I have to start the Overcomers Refugee Services, it's not like I didn't have job or other thing to do. When I graduated from Second Star, I started interpreting. I was a medical interpreter, and then I became caseworker at Ascentria, and then I became employment specialist. And then I feel like I should start something because I was really, really busy doing the paperwork, the federal regulation. You have to do the paperwork and do your job. They're very, very busy. So I said, I have to start something that can really, the refugee can be very flexible and calm and focus on helping them than just keep filling the paperwork. So I started the organization, and I was lucky to partner with other resettlement agents like Ascentria. We're now partnering, BCNH. We partner for the first time. That's how I start. And so the focus is really to educate, empower, and engage. When you give people fish, they will just keep getting fish. But it's good to teach them how to fish than just to keep giving them fish. So that's our goal, is to educate while we're giving service. People can come to our office. We provide service, but also educating them and connect them with the resource so that way they can become self-sufficient. So this is the numbers of the people we help in this fiscal year. You can see, the USCIS has more numbers. So we have a refugee who apply for a green card, travel document. We have so many refugees who has people who still back home that they need help to do the petition. We are not legal people to do those kind of things, so we connect them with the resource when they can have get the service they need. So the next things as I said, we really try to educate people. This is our young kids from high school that we're trying to connect with the businesses. If you can see, we visited 3 businesses, Fernburg and Urgent Magnetics, and then Supreme Court, were welcomed by the Chief Justice. So the reason behind this is to connect our young generation with the businesses and offices. We have so many kids, when they graduate from high school, they say, I have just to find a job. But when we visited the Supreme Court, kids were so inspired to go to school and do the law school. So they became judges or lawyers and everything because they met with the judges. They were very inspired. So when we visit the businesses, the kids were so inspired. So when they graduate or if they are in college, they can find a place where they can do the internship or look for a job. Because after when they graduate from high school, they always just go in one place. When they see one refugee working in one place, they always attempt to go to the same place. But there's so many jobs around where they can go and knock. So we have that opportunity to take them to those businesses so that way they can have connection. So the other things, we have a women group. So many people ask me why there's only women, not men. So our history, the women are the people who were left behind in our countries. So now we really want to build their confidence by connecting them with the different services and educating them. So this is the woman who usually to go to court, maybe because there was some cases. Now she was very happy to sit on judge's chair. This means a lot to them. After we visited the court, they say, now we're so inspired and we help our children, especially the girl, to encourage them to continue with the education, not just after they graduate and say, now you are mature, you should go and get married. So now they can see there's other women who are judges. So we try really to inspire them to continue their education and be like other people. So these are, again, Supreme Court, where the women group met with the judges and Chief Justice. And the next picture is financial literacy. We partner with Merrimack County Saving Bank to come and do the financial literacy, and Bengal Saving Bank and other organizations like NAMI, for example, they came and talked about the mental health. We had Dartmouth College that came and speak about the health. So we invite so many people. We invited the DHHS, and if you're interested to speak to our women group, please let me know. We invite you and come and talk to our women group. So again, the goal here is really to educate the refugee, not only just working, but also connect them with other resources. So the refugee are people who work hard and they can do everything. So as I said myself, I didn't go to college here, but I had knowledge from back home. That's why I'm using the experience, even if my English is broken, but I have the knowledge behind that. I was able to start the church. I'm also pastor, if you didn't know. So we have a church that was really, really successful. Mayor knows, he visited us, and Stacy and everybody else came to our church. So this is the church that has many people from different countries. It was very successful, and I'm proud about it. So I started the Overcomers Refugee Services. We are successful. We have now 5 years working. We have people, have staff who work in this organization, but also helping people to start the businesses. We have this for-profit organization that start. We now have 20 people who work in that businesses, and we help other people to start the business. So I don't know if my time is okay. Yeah. So thank you so much for coming and listening to me. We have so many to share. If you need my contact, my office is here in Concord. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Clement. So many ideas, so much good work, things that you're putting into action to help others. So Sanjay, you're going to share a little bit about your journey, which I think folks will hear was long and complicated, but successful. So go ahead.
All right, thank you so much. Hello, good morning, everyone. First of all, I feel very honored for this opportunity to share a part of my story. Thank you so much, Zine and the team. I am Sanjay Sagar, and by profession, I'm a public health scientist. I work for Darthmouth Health as a project manager. And I'm a strong believer in the principle of...
Sanjay, can you pull it up just a little closer?
Yep, sorry.
Yeah.
So I'm a strong believer in the principle of diversity, equity, and inclusion. These are not just the word. These are the guiding principles that have shaped my life, my work. My story begins in Nepal. That's where I originally come from, a country of rich tradition and culture. However, my pursuit of knowledge and desire to contribute to the betterment of society led me to explore the world. My educational and professional journey had been marked by a deep commitment of learning and growth, from Nepal to India, to the United States, to Germany, to Switzerland, to South Africa, to Australia, to Canada, and back to the US finally. I know, that's a lot. I moved a lot. It was mostly because I was studying and working. So I traveled about 15 countries during my PhD. I was a PhD student in Switzerland, and that happened immediately after my MPH in the US. I'll continue with my talk. So I completed my bachelor in public health from Nepal in 2008. In 2010, I moved to the US for my MPH program with a full scholarship, so I never had to pay, which was great. Thank you so much for that, again, the US. This significant step opened multiple doors of opportunities everywhere. However, this journey was not without any challenges. My credential did not shield me from the difficulties I faced while finding meaningful work, particularly after completing my postdoctoral fellowship in Canada in 2019. The turning point came when I struggled to find meaningful work in my field of training. Despite my qualification and international experiences, the path forward was not as smooth as I had anticipated. The challenges I encountered were not just unique to me, they resonated with so many immigrants worldwide, including Canada and the United States. I am a family man. My wife is sitting at the back today and listening to me. I'm a family man and I had bills to pay. So I decided to take up a job in Canada, which is far below my expectation. I chose to accept administrative job, which was hourly paid. It was mainly because I got rejection from more than hundreds of jobs that I applied for my professional jobs. It was this point when I was struggling with the job I had. I continued with the same job for 2 years, and it was this time a question came in my mind, whether I should continue to live in Canada or should I leave for better opportunities elsewhere. I and my family decided to leave Canada and relocate back to the US. Now, I live in Concord and work for Darthmouth Health. Thank you so much, New Hampshire and Darthmouth Health. I feel really integrated, welcomed, and it gives me a sense of belongingness. As I conclude, I would like to emphasize that today the world is a global village and many countries have opened their door to immigrants. If a country fails to integrate newly arrived immigrants in their workforce, it would be a win for another country choosing to integrate them into their workforce. This is also applicable to all states in the United States. I believe that failure to provide enough opportunity, it is not just a loss for an individual, but rather the whole economy, whether it's a country or a state. Hence, it is crucial for us to recognize the immense opportunities, potential, and contribution that immigrants bring not only to their adopted countries, but also to the interconnected world we live in. I would like to finish off this story with a note that this country is known as a land of opportunities. This country is far off than so many countries in terms of lifestyle, economy, innovation, and technology, and immigration. So let's practice the principle of diversity, equity, and inclusion in our workforce and make this country the best. Thank you so much.
thank you to all three of our panelists. I'm just going to ask a couple of follow-up questions, and then we'll open for the audience. So I'm a social worker by training, and social workers are trained to look at systems. And so I want to ask a question to Henry and Clement to reflect on, you both hold parts of the system, both the resettlement experience, particularly Henry, you talked about that first 90 days. And Clement, you've now founded Overcomers to really help with the post-resettlement experience. If you woke up tomorrow and the system was really functioning the way that it should be to make the experience smooth and quick and, shall we say, easy, maybe as a hope, what would be different? What would be perhaps the one thing that may be different in the system?
Do you want me to go? Yeah, that's a really good question. There's a lot of things that are challenging. I think to make the process better, I think we have to flesh out and understand that fair and equal are not the same thing. It's how the media portrays certain crises. The world has so many things happening at all times, yet it focuses on certain areas. And so we forget that there are people from Congo, that those stories aren't being shared. There's so many of those things. So that impacts our funding. So you might get funding for one group over another. It's all well intended and it's, it's important, but unfortunately, I think it would be easier if we could look at the system and say, clearly there's not enough money to really launch someone successfully. We end up working really hard to do that. And so if we were able to have sort of just an easier level playing field of funding that covered those first 90 days to 5 years for the support that we need, I think it would be a lot smoother. Because you want to set people up for success, not whack-a-mole funding so that you can limp programs along.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think for me, like if I wake up tomorrow and see people of Concord or New Hampshire speaking at least 4 languages, how about that? So that would be much easier for the new American to come here and be able to just integrate quickly without going to Second Star or other things. Just kidding. So for me, as Henley said, it's really hard to change the system, as you know. The way it's built, it will be hard to change. But the big challenge that we see, I think for me, what I can see that can work well for the employment is to see many new Americans get trained and become supervisor and manager in different businesses. I'm saying this because we have couple businesses like Water. They trained somebody who speaks different languages, and they give him a position of management. He's the one now training other refugees. Working in these streets is not hard, but if you have someone who trains you for the first time in your language, in the language that you understand, it became much, much, much easier. This would be great if we have so many businesses that has people who speak different languages taking a management position. The other thing is, as Steve said, the language barrier, it's really hard for people to understand. That's why I forget to mention we have a volunteer program where we, because so many people when they came here, they have different levels of education. So very hard to put those people in the same class. So what we did, we create a volunteer program where we connect 101. So that way the volunteer will work on person's level of English and education. So it became much easier. And so that way they learn from scratch instead of going to the same class with other people who went to school like myself, when I attended Second Star, I had people who never been in school who need to learn how to write their names. So for me, it was really kind of bringing me down because I wanted to learn grammar and speaking and stuff like that, but they were going back to teach us again how to write the sentence and stuff like that. That's why we started our program. And I really encourage people to become volunteer and have families and people to practice their English, even if it's just speaking. You don't have to have the professional language English to write, but just speaking, it's very important. The other thing, there's so many things that we really need. One more, yeah. So, the housing, it's issue, transportation. New Hampshire, the system of transportation is very hard. So there's so many jobs around, but when you place people, they need to have somebody to carpool. Otherwise, there's no bus to transport people to those businesses. That's something perhaps they should work. And the last is really training. As Stephen said, if we can see many job training, like Ascentria. I remember when the Ascentria partner with the Deeply, my wife was among those who were trained, and she get job just 1 week after she get trainings. So the training is very important. We have a lady who went to job corps. She graduated from high school. She didn't have really good English, but she went to job corps and she was trained. Now she works in Boston, making so much money because she, gets more skills. We have another guy who went to job corps. Now he works in electrical company where he makes $5,000 a month. So that's something that we need more training facility to train people to become who they want to be. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Lots of great ideas. Sanjay, how about you wrap us up with a response? So your journey was long and it was complicated, but you sound like you really learned a lot and obviously have landed here successfully with your wife and your family in New Hampshire. If you were able to give a little bit of advice to another immigrant who was considering the journey behind you, what would be a piece of advice you'd like to give them so that hopefully they might not face one of those challenges that you did?
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that question. That's very interesting. I don't know if I am the right person, but I'll try my best. I think my struggle started in 2018, early 2019, and I think that time I was young, less experienced than today. One of the mistakes I did was because of my, I think, less experience, I would say, I was working harder. I was known in my field, but I had very limited networking skill. So although I traveled everywhere, I was so much busy with my work that I forgot, or I did not keep up with my contacts. After getting so much of rejection and series of failure, then I got in touch with my previous contacts, all my contacts from all my educational institutions, and that helped me really very well. Then I tried to talk to them, share my problem, what is my vision for my professional life, my personal life, and try to get all the comments, feedback from them. That has really shaped me today, where I am today. So my only advice to new immigrant is to don't do a mistake of living by yourself. Get in touch with your mentor if you have. If not, then find a mentor. Get access to resources like Clement and his organization does, and that will definitely help succeed in life.
Great, thank you for that. In some ways, you made me think it goes a little bit against our American value of rugged individualism, doesn't it? What we really are suggesting is that the experience can be best for both employers, but for immigrants or aspiring new Americans to have a network, to not try to do it all alone, but to do it with the people that are around you. So thank you for that. I'm looking at Bri. Do we have time to take a question or two?
Yes, two.
Okay, 2 questions. All right, anybody? Oh, good. Welcome.
So I'm wondering if we could hear a little bit about what it feels like when you do feel accepted and belong. What does that feel like for you, and how can we help employers give you that feeling? Give everyone that feeling.
Is it for me?
Both of you guys.
Either
I
way.
didn't understand the last part. What was the last part?
What does it feel like when employers help you to feel like you belong, like you're part of it?
Want to go first? I can share my story again. So I lived in 6 countries, and either for study or work. And my impression is language, the work culture is very different, like in many different countries, like in all different countries. US was my second country when I left Nepal. And it was always kind of I always felt so welcome. People were very welcoming. They were inclusive. And that basically boosted my life, my professional career. And that is what I assumed when I left US after living for 5 years. I moved to Germany first for an internship with WHO. The culture was again different. Then I chose to come back. I stayed here again for a year. Then went back to Switzerland to pursue my PhD. Again, I found language is the barrier. Culturally, we are different, but they were integrated. It takes time in new country, new culture, in new language setting. And eventually, after my PhD, I went on to Canada with my family, with my wife. The only one thing I feel different, in traveling over all of these countries, the big challenge is the local context. When we move to a new country, it takes time to understand the local context, what is needed to succeed. And that was also true in Canada. In most of employers, they require Canadian experience. I had Canadian experience because I was working as a postdoctoral fellow, but then they needed something else which I didn't have. And that's the reason I decided to relocate back, because somewhere in my mind I knew US is the best country to work for. When I moved in here, now I feel well integrated because there's nobody asked me where I come from, what languages I speak. They care what I know and how can I contribute to the workforce. Thank you.
For me, I think the best thing to do is to build confidence and trust to whatever you have as employer. As I said, we do have experience, even though we don't have experience here, but we do have some knowledge. But if your employer, build trust and confidence and say, we know you can do this. So my experience is that when I started at Ascentria, so I was taking one person, going to the company or businesses, and I was saying, I do have people who can work here. And they said, oh, you don't know if they can work here. And they said, just try one person. And then they said, okay, bring one person. And then I bring one person after 2 weeks and say, can you bring one more person? After 1 month, and they said, do you have other worker? So that's, just try one and you see that the people can work. So let them feel like they can do job. Build confidence and trust them in what they're doing. Thank you.
One more? One question is before lunch.
I have one here. So mine is not a question, but I just want to give Clement and folks from IIND really big shout out. I've seen them in action. They do such a wonderful job. Clement literally, we conducted a little over 4 or 5 financial doses, and he sat on every financial dose. IINE helping these new refugees really settle in this country. Good job. They're not saying here, sitting here saying just because of it, but they really, really work.